I'm Nile Woodson, of course, owner of Poke. And when I was in college, I got a business degree, marketing. And so I always wanted to have my own business. I just didn't really know what that was. So I was in this sort of discovery phase of just, seeing what my interests are, what I liked, what I didn't like, what I could see myself doing, funneling all these ideas down. And it hit me because I was also a server in sort of a fine dining restaurant. It hit me that I really was passionate about food and service and creating experiences for people. And so combining my passion of service with my business background, business degree, gave me the idea to open a restaurant. And then I was just figuring out what exactly that would be, what format or style, fast casual, sit down, what the cuisine would be. So just again, exploration, trying different things out. And I ate poke in Los Angeles and just instantly fell in love with the freshness of the dish. So that became the thing, the vehicle for the shop. Broadened it a little bit from a brand perspective of island-inspired cuisine. So poke being from Hawaii, it's an island-inspired dish. But being island-inspired gave us a broader base for the restaurant concept. So we have Filipino-inspired cuisines and Japanese elements, dumplings and things that aren't just sushi bowls. And then I say we because I have a couple of business partners in this process. It started with just me and one other individual, and we pieced together a team of 4 partners. But we started doing pop-ups. We needed the vehicle to get our product into the public. To build support and following, to then open up a restaurant eventually was the game plan. So we started doing pop-ups at bars and restaurants, juice bars, coffee shops, anywhere that had a kitchen but had a focus mostly on beverage was the opportunity for us to come in, promote events in their space, and serve our food. And so we built a following through social media around posting and promoting events. And
how long did that take to build that following?
Yeah, so me and my full-time sort of operational partner Nico, we like social media a lot. We have lots of friends and things on there. So before we even had a fully finished logo, before we had a menu, before we had all these things that mostly you would think you need to have in place before you start promoting something, we just were very organically sharing what we were up to with our friends and our family. So before we did pop-ups, we had maybe a couple hundred likes on our page, and we're doing little videos in our kitchen at home. We were also roommates.
Prior to even serving food?
Never even having served a single dish. So we were building something that people felt was fun and creative and wanted to be a part of, even before they knew how good the food was. And of course, if you're opening a restaurant or a food concept, your food should be pretty good, right? That's the solid foundation of it. So we always were confident in that regard. But I think I filed the LLC in June of 2015. And we did our first pop-up in August of 2015. That's about 2 months between them. And really the main purpose or the vision for the pop-ups was to connect with people outside of our social circles. So of course our friends and our family are going to support what we're up to, but can we get Bob and Kate and Joe and Jennifer to come and eat at our spot and then like what we're up to and become part of our community? We also launched a crowdfunding campaign, which was a way to raise money, and the pop-ups were sort of the funnel for that. Go go to a bar where people don't know who we are, what our food is. If they try it and like it, now they're way more likely to contribute to our campaign, as well as our dads and moms and all of that. So that was sort of the platform that we took off on. We grew that from one shop into multiple shops, and then we grew that to a food truck. We did a food truck for a while as we grew and opened ourselves up for investments, found the brick and mortar location, opened our first shop, and now we have 2 brick and mortar locations. So now, all in all, I think in August, so just a month ago, was our 5-year anniversary. Yeah, and our 3rd-year anniversary of brick and mortar shops. So yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Which aspect do you like better, the food truck pop-up type thing, or the brick and mortar reliable, every day, you know where you're going, you know what you're doing, you know everything's working?
So I like them both for different reasons. One, the brick and mortar is the foundation. It's the platform that we can grow. If we want to have multiple locations across the country, that really happens with brick and mortars. So food truck is really cool and it's really fun and it's super flexible because it's literally mobile and you can take it where you want. And from a profitability standpoint, going to an event where people are specifically anticipating your arrival and eating at your establishment means that you're doing a lot higher of a volume in a shorter time frame. So from that perspective, like the food truck's more profitable, But it's just like kind of like gypsy lifestyle, you just load everything that you have up and you pull up to a spot and you pop out and open your thing up and we're serving food, like it's really high energy. It's a different energy than the brick and mortar.
Let's talk about the crowdfunding aspect of that. What inspired you to reach out like that? What was your goal and how long did it take to reach?
I think that, so our goal was $10,000, which seemed like a lot of money at the time. I think we actually ended the campaign, it was a 30-day campaign, we ended with $12,000, which like when we went to open our brick and mortar, I'm pretty sure that money covered like the legal fees associated with like the offering memo and things that we had to raise the capital. So it's just a drop in the bucket, But it meant so much more to us than just having the $12,000. It meant that people believed in our vision. It meant that people not only just believed in our vision, but they actually contributed to our vision and supported it. We had 160 backers and, a good amount of, like I said, our friends and family and people who knew us personally, but a lot of people that we had no idea who they were, you know what I mean? So that was very inspiring. And it gave us that community platform to build on top of. It sent us out the gates running,
So as someone who started this venture from scratch, literally,
Yep.
what were some of the qualities that you had that you really had to rely on to bring that forward, to bring something that was a concept into a successful business?
Yeah. The most important thing, the most important tool in the entrepreneurial toolkit is the vision. Vision for like not just tangible, what am I creating, but like what inspires me about this venture that I'm creating for other people, for the community, for the world, for myself. You have to have that vision because there's tons of moments of minutia and tedious details and repetition and things that get exhausting. And if you forget why you're doing those things, it's really easy to get caught up in the mundane, like repetitious blah 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 stuff and lose the passion or the zest for what you're up to. So I'd say if it boiled down to one thing, it would be the vision for the project. But then you have to grind it out. You gotta roll the sleeves up. So, I definitely did anything and everything from the start. I'm working on designing our logo and working on costing out our menu items and promoting it on social media and finding the locations to do the pop-ups or to park the food truck. So a lot of coordination. You have many hats that you wear. It's like I always said, I wish I was an octopus, so I had 8 arms, to do all these things. So you got to be flexible and committed. Like nothing can stop the progress. There may be road bumps, there may be potholes, there may be breakdowns, but you get to really change the relationship with those things and sort of welcome them, because the breakdowns lead to breakthroughs, and that's like so true. You learn and grow way more from those dark moments or the mistakes or those pivotal positions than you do from just like, yeah, we're doing it, that's fun and exciting, but when it's all working, you don't have those learning opportunities. Then when something falls down, you're like, okay, why did this happen? What did we do to create this? And what can we do to avoid this happening again? Which ultimately grows and develops the individuals, the business, to be better moving forward.
So you were pretty young when you started this business. Were you always had that entrepreneurial spirit during high school, or when did this spark start coming from you?
I always had the entrepreneurial spirit, but I didn't have a lot of direction. Like I didn't know what to direct that towards. And I also didn't have a lot of follow through. So I'd have these cool ideas and I'd get everyone excited about it and maybe take the first step or the first 2 steps, and then something else would come up or happen, and then I'd start that process over again. Oh man, now there's this new thing, get super excited and, inspired by it, and then do a little bit, and then the next thing, so it was like a lot of potential, but just little follow through. So that's also a very important detail in the process, and that comes down to the commitment and all those things. But yeah, it was, for me, just figuring out what I really liked to do. That was for some reason, was a difficult question to ask. I also think that I put a lot of pressure on what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Phrasing that question from that it's very daunting, and it stifles the creativity. Even though I'm 5 years into this thing and I'm super proud of it and we've had a lot of success, I'm just getting started. Whether that's the continuation within HiPoke or using this as the platform to get me to what's next, and even that I don't know what it would be, but just knowing that there's something else out there and that I'm on the path of the journey, not focused so much on the destination.
You talked about having that social media presence ahead of time, and you said you were pretty good at building up some social media following. What was that background? How did you get into that, and what did you use? What kind of tips and tricks would you use to get that following?
Yeah, I mean, it was still even a different time back then. Social media really started happening when I was in high school. So, early 2000s. So I was learning it as it was all being rolled out to the world. Whereas now, I'd imagine most of the high schoolers watching this video, it's you learn English and you learn how to use cellular devices and get on social media and all those things. It's just part of our DNA at this point. So I'd be surprised if most of the people watching this video aren't 10 times better at social media than I am. But it's just full transparency. I think the thing that worked really best for us was vulnerability, like we don't have to have it all figured out. We don't even have to pretend like we know what we're doing. You know, we're committed to this project and vision and having fun doing it and letting those things show through the content that we had on social media and just sharing that with everybody. And so, you know, the first thing we did was, I think we sent page like requests to every single friend that we had on Facebook, thousands of people. And that started us off with a couple hundred, and then, you know, you grow it from there. You can do different projects or campaigns on social media that get user experience, like input. You know, you can do polls or where would you like to see us pop up next? Things that get that engagement up, which helps push your reach further to reach people outside of your circle. You know, that's the goal. You want to have that content that expands the reach so that you're hitting people in other places. And so you're always in front of everybody. Like, man, every single time I get on Instagram, there's a beautiful picture of a delicious looking poke bowl, and it just gets so hungry. Like, you want to hear that all the time, you know? So just whatever, and then obviously, whatever the business that you're up to, the content should reflect that. So for us, it's like people enjoying themselves eating our food, and really high quality, beautiful pictures of the food. Those are, we find, the two things that get us the most pull.
And I'm sure once, as that social media started building and you got that base foundation, that kind of shows legitimacy towards what you're up to. You know, if you tried to send it out to the masses and you only had 12 followers,
right? Exactly.
It's hard to even that.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to have that. Like, I don't care if you like this page or not. If you like me, like this page. You know, put pressure on people. Don't be shy. Like, hey, have you liked that page yet? Like, hey, you know, do it with a smile. Not like, did you like my page? You know, like that doesn't go over as well. So just like a high energy response to that to get people to be on board.
So describe your typical day as a business owner, as an entrepreneur in the restaurant.
Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, originally I did every single job that there was to do for iPoke. And then as you scale up and grow the business more and more, the conversation shifts into what am I best suited to do and what are the other things that need to be done and how do I build a team around putting people who are best suited to do those roles in communication, in correspondence. Because if I start focusing on things that I'm not as good at, one, there's an opportunity cost to not focusing on what I am really strong in, and there's an opportunity cost for somebody else to bring that X factor into the equation that sets everything off. So, like for me, so my business partner Miko was better at social media, which was our almost our full marketing platform. And it's like basically how we marketed our business until we had brick and mortars, because it was all about letting them know where we're at or where we're popping up, where the truck's going to be, or those sorts of things. So he really focused heavily on that side, where I was more in tune with operations, the costing of our menu items, processes and procedures around things. I mean, we're both marketing majors, so the oversight on marketing was something that we could both do really well, but the actual application, which was social media, like he was better at, and I was better at this, even though we both could have done either thing. So it's like, where do you add the most value? And then what else do we need to cover with other people who add the most value there? So for me now, I am the CEO, so basically I just make sure everything works well. And if something's not working well, I focus in on that and identify why and and how to avoid that happening in the future and implement that new policy, process, procedure, focal point. And so like, I have an operations guy now who's focusing on the costing. So as long as I can look at our P&Ls or our balance sheet and see that our food cost is X percentage of our total revenue and it should be below this point and that's going well, we're good. If it's high, then I need to say, why is this high? Oh, we have a lot of dry stock items or things that we ordered a lot of because there's shortages, so it looks like we have a higher food cost, but really this is going to stretch us for the next few months. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's just combing through everything to make sure everything's happening as it's intended to, and then handling any breakdowns or any things that come up along that process. So that could be balancing books, dealing with accountants, tax man, communicating with the partners, communicating with the investors, communicating with the managers, that, if we've gotten some bad reviews that are focused on this one aspect of service, like what can we do to change that or boost that? So it's a lot of coordination on this level, and a lot less in-store role, which is interesting because like I started this business because I love service, but the higher I grow, like the more we grow, the less of that I personally actually do. So it's like, that's just, I guess, the way things go. I can't be growing the business and working in the business at the same time. Like they're two very different things. Yeah.
What's your favorite aspect of being an entrepreneur and owning your own business versus a corporate job or something where you're going 9 to 5 and work for somebody else?
Yeah, I think that I could make just as strong an argument about being an employee as I could about being an entrepreneur. Like there is some really solid security in having someone higher up directing what you're doing. Like there's days when I wake up and I'm like, I wish somebody would just tell me what to do. Like, so I don't have to think about what's going on or what I have to address or focus on. It's just like, this is what you're doing today, and I'm like, I got it, let's go, super clarity. And I hear a lot of people say a lot that they want to have their own business because they don't want to work for anybody else, which, sure, there's a lot of flexibility, in that if I say, we're closing right now, and then I got the rest of the day off, but that doesn't work for the business, right? Like, so I get to prioritize what's better for the business over what I want ultimately. So from that regard, I'm not working for someone else, but I'm working for something else. Or, I have people that I report to as well, like I said, the partners, the investors in the business. So there's always some level of checks and balances no matter what you do. So if that's your main motivation to doing your own business, it's a lot easier to just get a job that you like and that you can just do, But I love being in a leadership role. I love, whether it's the fact that I created a product that many, many, many people love, and I get to stay the source for that, or that I've created jobs for other people. I've stimulated the economy. I brought a new food and a new thing to Columbus and to the Midwest, really. I get to stand as source for that and be proud of that. And I don't know if I would feel the same way if I was just doing a job and just doing it really well. You know what I mean? So that's how, it's a powerful platform. It's a big game. I like playing a big game. I'm an impact guy. I want to make massive impact. I could probably have made more money, at least right away, if if I just opened a burger shack or a pizza shop or something that I knew everyone already loved and didn't have that educational barrier of like this brand new thing, raw fish in the landlocked Midwest, like where are you getting your fish from? What, you know? But I felt that doing a poke shop would create a much larger impact.
Student population at Ohio Business Week is high school students, and you have some high school students as employees. What advice would you give them to be the best employee that an owner or a manager would love to have them on board and keep them as employees?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so obviously I had a job when I was in high school. And my first job was at Quiznos Subs. And I was just like, I was obsessed with making every sandwich the way I would want to eat it. So it was like, I'd spread the mayonnaise from like corner to corner and make sure the cheese covered each section so that when it melted, it was like, you know, so care and consideration with everything that you do. Take it seriously and show up, you know, be hungry and don't discredit yourself because you might be the youngest one in the business or on the shift, or you might not have as much knowledge or experience. That doesn't disqualify you from doing just as good a job as anybody else. So like trusting that and not making it up, just being vulnerable about what you know and what you don't know and be hungry for that knowledge so that you can grow. That would be probably the most inspiring quality I would say about a high school worker, you know, or just someone who's younger in general, is to just not make up anything, but just be like, I don't know, but I really want to learn. And so show me once, show me twice, and I'll show you the next time. You know what I mean? Like that sort of an attitude towards the role, even if it's something as basic or boring as making a sandwich or selling a clothing garment or whatever that may be. It's growth, it's an opportunity, so just give it all you got.
And so last year you actually served as a volunteer at Ohio Business Week and led a group of students through the process of creating their own business and the marketing, finances, everything behind what Ohio Business Week means. What was that experience like for you?
It was great. It was really, really beautiful to be a part of a group, you know, of individuals, whether they were the students or the faculty staff, who were all there focused on growth and development, and whether we were there volunteering and supporting these high school students and kids there, or they were there looking to learn something or develop something that maybe they wouldn't have they not done this program. Like just being in that environment of growth was really exciting. I really enjoyed that. I feel confident that the tools and, you know, the things that we did really would have an impact on somebody who maybe wants to start their business or maybe just wants to learn more. Like I think we really set them up for success, and so I felt really good being a part of that, and it was fun. I mean, if it's not fun, it's not worth it. And that doesn't mean like make light of things, like some stuff's serious, but you can make anything fun and enjoyable, and it just changes the total emotional response, like to that thing, whatever it is, laundry or, you know, starting a business or walking the dog or name it, you know. It could be tedious and whatever, but it could still be fun. Make a game out of it and enjoy it. So we gave them really solid tools and skill set, and we did it in a great environment, and we all had a lot of fun doing it. So
outside of Ohio Business Week, what are other resources in the areas across Ohio that students can look into and explore to increase their passion or their skills in business?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there's other things like Ohio Business Week that are available that I'm not familiar with. Of course, Ohio Business Week is the best, so let's just state that. But if you have a little bit more of a specific idea of what you're doing, there may be other programs available for that, which I would definitely advise to look into. The Small Business Development Center is a local resource. It's free, which is always great, especially when you're starting up a business, anything free. That gives you coaches, counselors, essentially directly from what you're up to. Do you need to learn how to file an LLC? I didn't know how to do any of these things, right? So leaning into that, tax questions, QuickBooks tutorials. They had a mobile food vendor orientation that shows you how to get certain things certified, or where to get insurance for it, or all these resources that are available through this one organization. Highly recommend it. Super, super important. SBDC, Small Business Development Center. Find people in the industry that you want to be a part of and break into, and offer them a meal or whatever that gets you a little bit of face time with that person, and ask them as many questions as you possibly can. Like, we really leaned into the support of people in our market and industry that had done what we they had done what we wanted to do. So ask them what worked, but the really good question to ask is what didn't work. And soak that up so that you can ideally not experience the same thing. Learn from other people's mistakes.
So what didn't work for you in Hypoke getting started with 5 years?
I mean, a lot of things. A lot of things. I mean, just jumping in you're bound to get messy. So we had to figure out a lot of situations on the fly. I mean, specifically with the food truck, we had breakdowns, literal breakdowns of engine after an event or this, and you have to get really creative. Building a team's difficult. Finding the right pieces and putting them into place. Lots of things. And a lot of things work too. Taking on investors and having the framework for that, but having never done that before, and just trusting ourselves in whatever it was that we were up to, trusting the vision. Our food truck caught on fire. That was fun. We had deals that didn't work because we were too ambitious or wanted too much, or things like that it's easy to get down on or feel like it's a loss. But actually the deals that you don't do won't hurt you. The lessons learned from things like that you just kind of make mental notes of, and just hope not to do again in the future.
And that leads into our final question, and that's, again, since our focus is high school students, looking back, if you could go back in time to when you were a high school student and give yourself advice, biggest piece of advice, what would that be?
Do OBW. The biggest piece of advice, I think trusting yourself, trusting myself, and not carrying the weight of the world. It's easy to feel like every decision that you make at that age is such a big, monumental decision. And, obviously every decision will impact the rest of your life on a certain level, but to not take it all so seriously, and to just trust that if you're working as hard as you know how to, and that you're open to working harder if you figure out what that looks like, and trust that even the mistakes won't be the end of the world kind of mistakes that you can learn and dust yourself off and get back into the game, I think would have gone a long way for just enjoying the journey a little bit more instead of focusing so much on the destination.
We appreciate your time and abilities to express what it's like to start a business, and of course for your dedication to Ohio Business Week and volunteering. I would just thank you for inviting us here to your restaurant downtown Columbus, and hope that everybody out there will, if you're in Columbus, to stop by one of the 2 locations, either in the Short North or the downtown, to try one of these sushi bowls and experience it for yourself.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Niall.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Well, thank you all for joining us for our first ever video speaker series for Ohio Business Week. And we want to thank everybody that tuned in, and especially Niall, who is joining us live here for some question and answer period. Thank you, Niall. That was a great interview, a lot of insights to what it does take to start a business and some of the easy things behind starting a business and some of the hard things behind starting a business. So we have a few questions online that are coming in, so just want to pop through some of those. Nancy is asking, what is the biggest mistake that you've made as an entrepreneur, and what did you learn from it?
Oof, that's a good one, Nancy. That's a good one, Nancy. The biggest mistake. I would say that the biggest mistake that I made was making assumptions when creating the team, like specifically with my business partners. It's really, so the lesson, I suppose, that I learned was that clear communication is the most important piece of a team, and identifying everyone's strengths and roles, and so sort of like their swim lanes, so that there's a lot of accountability around what each person is bringing to the table and responsible for. So specifically with some of my partners, maybe not clearly identifying it. I mean, as I mentioned in the video, like a lot of this happened on the fly. So we just kind of jumped in and figured it all out. So you kind of building the plane and flying it at the same time. There's bound to be things like this. But yeah, just clear communicated roles and accountability with your business partners and any managers that you might have, so that everyone's on the same page, and that leads to a high level of accountability and responsibility around each person's role.
Nice. One of the things that you had mentioned in the video leads to our next question from Trevor, who asks, what were some of those early ideas that you had as an entrepreneur that you might have taken the first step on, but never followed through on?
Yeah, okay, so I had a business idea for like sort of like a, not furniture, like, yeah, I guess kind of like a furniture company, but I made things. So I made like refinished wood tables, all with like an industrial aspect to them. So industrial piping or industrial fixtures, made like coat racks and table lamps and standing lamps. And I made an Etsy account for it. And I don't know what happened. I sold a couple locally. I couldn't figure out how to ship this giant light with like, would I have it would you assemble it yourself? But it's like this expensive thing. So I didn't want people to have to assemble it themselves, but to send a giant box is super expensive. So it like messed with the margins. Yeah, I kind of just one day was all in, and then the next day I was like going on a vacation somewhere, and that was that. I had another, not really my own business, but I had a really good opportunity to do sales for a friend of mine's contracting company, where he was doing real estate development. And so I was essentially selling fixtures and baseboards and tile and bathroom fixtures and things like that, appliances, to stores and contracts around his business. And I just didn't care about tile and fixtures. And so my energy, just like, I wasn't passionate about it, and I just didn't get into it. And so I really didn't do a very good job as a salesman for that company. But he was actually a really good friend and a strong pillar of support for me within Hypoke. So like, even though that one thing didn't work out and we both understood that, it led to something else. So there's always an opportunity there, even if it's not exactly what you intended to create when you started it.
So another learning from your mistakes, and like, well, for the shipping thing, learning that it costs a lot of money to ship something that weighs a lot and is large. So shifting
Yeah.
and figuring out what's next, huh?
Yep.
Matt is online and asking, what personal qualities have you discovered about yourself since you've become an entrepreneur?
I'm always like, I'm a very high energy guy. Like, I like excitement. I like the hustle. That's like always been my natural come from to life. But since starting Hypoke, I have had to shift a lot into like being more analytical and being more supportive, because I kind of, not like I'm selfish and I just always take care of myself first, but I never had a team that I was responsible for prior to my employees and staff at Hypoke, that I really got to focus on and prioritize in front of me. So supportive qualities around team building, being analyzer and diving into the details of, you know, the numbers and little things like that, being very sharp and, you know, filing for things and structure of forming the company. But then, like, me as a person, I have had massive breakthroughs with trust. You know, when you start a business, it's very much about you and your idea and you making it happen. And as that idea grows into something bigger, you start hiring and building a team around that. And there's a big level of trust involved in knowing that you've done what you can do to set this person up for success, to do it in the way that you would do it. And ideally do it better, because that person is better suited for that role than you might be, especially if you're doing 10 other things. Like I said, the octopus thing. Trust, and I touched on this in the video, like, it's a big piece. Fun. Like I said, I've always had fun. I've always been a fun guy, but, you know, this is a different kind of fun than just like going to a party or, you know, a club or a concert or something like that. This is like, I'm standing for something and it's bringing enjoyment to other people. And that is very enjoyable for me to be a part of an experience. And so it's fun, and even the struggles and the difficult times, you can just, you know, it's like a play, like it's a game, you know, like add that fun energy to it to make it smoother is definitely something I've learned since starting my own business.
Nice.
Yeah.
We have a few more questions coming in here. Matt is asking, how has technology impacted your business?
definitely for the better. I mean, social media and the internet and cellular devices and you know, all the accessibility has given us a platform to be very much more in front of people than we would if it didn't exist. Like, I know most of the people watching this are younger, and I'm not old, but I'm definitely older than you guys are mostly. And I had phone books and, you know, landlines, and you just like find your friend's name in the directory or look up the category, you know, like these search engines and visual social media platforms are huge. So it's like, it's been a massive benefit to have technology and the internet specifically. Also, currently with the pandemic and everything that's happened, we've put a lot more energy into our online platform. So like not just promoting ourselves online, but doing online ordering, delivery, tablets and services, Zoom, what we're doing right now. Like maybe if we weren't in a pandemic, this could have been done live and in person with a live Q&A thing, but here we are making the best of this situation. And I still get to have this visual thing. So yeah, I mean, technology has been a great boost overall to, I'd say, every business and really just connecting the world. Yeah,
Nice.
it's good. I like it. Technology, solid.
Trevor has another question. He's saying, for you as an entrepreneur with a business, what are some keys to balancing time and effort towards sustaining success you already have versus expanding and growth?
Okay, keys to, sorry, just hit me with that
Keys
second
to
half.
balancing time and effort towards whether you just maintain and sustain your current 2-location business, or as you mentioned in the video, that you know, a vision could be that these are across the country. How do you maintain that balance?
I think it's, I kind of like refer to this as like the entrepreneurial dilemma of you have to be satisfied with what you've created. You have to love what you're up to and give yourself credit for that. Like take a minute or a few seconds or whatever, pat yourself on the back, give yourself a big hug, like feel great about what you've got. And then also you have to be just unsatisfied enough to want to push it a little bit further. So my whole thing is like, I'm not in the game of just okay or good. Like I'm in the game of great. And I'll know when I feel great about what I'm up to. And not that I don't feel great about what I'm up to, but there's just that, it's like that internal dialogue of like, man, I really feel like I hit this one out of the park. And then the second that I say to myself, you know, like, oh, okay, this was good, let me take a nap or take a break, like that's the moment when you get on to the next thing. Like there's no time to sleep. You just keep it moving. Because it's like a game that I have with myself really, is how big can I grow this thing? How big, you know, not that I'm in the fast food business, my business is fast casual, but like McDonald's is so huge and they're doing the same thing I'm doing. They're serving food to people all around the world. And so I look at that and I'm like, man, there's a scenario where I could grow this thing huge and maybe I'll ride this train all the way there, or I'll get to 5 or 50 or 500, I don't know, and be like, this is great, you know, this is cool. And I'm not selling out, but like, I'm going to do this other thing, or, you know, this is the point. So I don't really know. Like, I think that point is different for everybody. And the balance is that you don't want to take on more than you can handle in the moment. So you want to be pretty structured about your growth, but also I think that there shouldn't be a cap, there shouldn't be a limit. It's just like, be in the business of great and create great, whatever that is for you.
Great. So we have 2 questions from Andy Tyson. The first one is, are you ready for a pool rematch?
Of course, always.
Nice.
I've been sharpening my game, you know, getting after it a little bit.
Maybe next summer at Ohio Business Week, we can get you to come back and make that happen.
We'll do it. There might be virtual pool though. See, Andy, and that, back to the technology question, like that, what would we do without virtual pool? So if you're ready sooner than that, Andy, get at me.
And so his actual question is, how do you assess the market opportunity how did you assess the market opportunity before starting Poke, a new restaurant?
Yeah, so there was no poke market in the Midwest, really on the East Coast. Poke as a food concept hit like the top trendiest food, I think in 2016. So we started doing our pop-ups to the end of 2015. And prior to that, I had been traveling a lot to LA, which obviously is closer to Hawaii. And I saw how explosive the growth around poke was there. And I was like, man, if it's really doing this here, it's only a matter of time before it starts doing it over here. And how about I take a stand in like facilitating that and being a part of that. So the market was that there was no market, and it was up to us to educate the market on what our product was, and create, like, you want to start the trend, you want to do it right, you know? So it was really important to us to do a high quality, you know, really put our souls into this thing. But we were sort of leading the charge in that sense. So when you look at something like a concept, an idea, or a business, and you see no market, it's very promising because there's a lot of room for growth there. But you also have some more challenges in like the whole educational aspect of it. And also for us, because raw fish, like the same reasons it might not have made sense were the same reasons that we could do it really well and make it viral and make it make sense. Like raw fish in the middle of the Midwest, like no oceans around us at all, that might not make sense, but our fish is so delicious and so fresh that you're like, wow, that's crazy, you know? Or sushi on a food truck, like, might not seem like the best combination, but like when you serve this incredible dish that would be just as good as if we were in a really fine, fancy sushi restaurant off of a food truck at a festival or something like that, it like starts to rework people's perceptual barriers to things. And if they are like, man, this thing that I thought wasn't that good is actually way better than I ever could have imagined, it starts to like change people. And so like we're in the game of that, not just like this is a good meal for a good price. It's like we want to create that experience and change people through that. So yeah.
Thank you, Andy, for those questions. As we wrap up here, we want to end all of these series with a few books or resources that you would recommend. So especially the books, what would you recommend that students would read? What were your favorite ones as you were going through this entrepreneurial venture?
Yeah, there were a lot of things that I read that I think were important. And then, you know, I think a lot of people might bring these up, you know, books like Strengths Finders and things that teach you a little bit about yourself. I like, when it comes to business material, things like that, I really like podcasts more than I do necessarily reading books or books on audio. So, but one of the books that I've read that was super impactful to me, it's a really easy read. It's the first book that my mentor recommended to me as the basis of what business is built on. It's called Getting to Yes. Getting to Yes. And it's by a couple of authors. I think Roger Fisher is the main guy. And it's all about the art of negotiation. So it's all about getting what you want, but also ensuring that the other person gets what they want, because it's not a successful negotiation unless it's a win-win. And so that was a really awesome, like, learning tool for me, because I was always into sports, and it was like, if I win, that means somebody has to lose. And if I'm growing a business, that means I get to be like vicious and all this. But there's this platform that is beautiful when everybody wins, win-win. So Getting to Yes, really good book. I would highly recommend that. Some of the podcasts that I love, Lewis Howes is a big, I love that guy. I know him personally, but he does Summit of Greatness, School of Greatness podcast. He's got some books and things. He has a little pamphlet that I found very supportive called The Millionaire Morning, which is just like successful routines and starting your days to like get you going. Yeah, there's tons of, I think it's important to stay current on like current events. So news, and, you know, not necessarily taking your opinion directly from what you're watching on the news, but to use that to inform your opinion. And so, like, you know, even as simple as just like reading some headlines and just getting the flavor of the day, you know, like what's going on. I think those are really powerful things, being like affluent, using your words and learning those things. So these are all resources I would recommend to the young entrepreneur. But Getting to Yes is really good. Simple, easy, quick, powerful book.
Awesome. So how can people find you? How can people find the two restaurants and you online?
Yeah, so we have our 2 brick and mortar locations. One is downtown on the Columbus Commons. Both are in Columbus, Ohio. The other is in the short north. We have a website that's got all the information on it, hipoke.com, HIPOKE.com. Social media, me personally, I'm sure I have an email I can send out if anybody has more direct questions. We can coordinate that, or come into the store. You can always find me in one of the stores. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Nile, for taking part in this. Thank you for being a volunteer for Ohio Business Week, and some great advice on this video series.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
All right, everybody have a great week, and we'll see you in a few weeks for the next one. Take care.
Yeah, take care.